Now, the name John Cena is synonymous with pro wrestling, one of the biggest names in the history. But there's another John Cena involved in pro wrestling, and I'm very excited to have him on here tonight. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. John Cena Sr. Mr. Cena, welcome.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I've known all about you because I'm from Jersey, so we're basically, we're all on the East Coast with the Indies and this and that. So we have a lot of similar friends and a lot of similar paths, even though you and I have never met.
I agree with that one.
Were you always a fan of wrestling growing up?
Yes, I was. I used to remember going to my grandfather's on Saturdays and watching Gordon Soley. And when I was a kid, you remember we had to wait for TV to come before you could really watch it. So that's when I had the opportunity to do it. And I would drive to the studio where Walter Killer Kowalski, God rest his soul, used to do his tapings for his wrestling shows. So yeah, I've always followed it, always been a fan. And whoever thought that I would get involved in it?
Who were your favorites growing up?
Killer Kowalski, obviously number one. Bruno Sammartino, Yukon Eric, Haystacks Calhoun, one of the big boys in the business. The Iron Sheik, believe it or not, the first original Sheik, the one that was the Boston Garden, him and Bruno Sammartino when he threw the fire in his face. You get Greg Valentine, handsome Jimmy Valiant with the Grand Wizard, all those good guys.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Bruno?
I did. It was truly an honor. I'd watched him perform a lot at the Boston Garden. That place would erupt. I mean, if he lost the match, which he did, they had to have security there. I did have the opportunity. I did.
What a gentleman. I'll tell you a real quick story. My dad and I met him at a restaurant, and he was my dad's hero. So it was amazing for me to see my dad, who's one of my heroes, meet his hero. So then, like 2 years later, I saw Bruno at an independent show, and he's in the locker room, and I'm like, Mr. Sammartino, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I met you with my father, yada, yada, yada. He's so nice. And I said, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I left, and I was pretty far down. He goes, Mike, one more thing. Yes, sir. He goes, make sure you tell your father I said hello.
He was a gentleman. I met him at WrestleMania. He was in the out there with the crowd. Pat Patterson and I were jocking back and forth. What's his name? God, I can't think of his name now. See, it's like my brain, I'm telling you, it's wicked. But anyway, Bruno was there. We had a chat. We talked about the Italian restaurants, where we go after the matches in Boston. What a great loss to the industry. That's all I can say. A true gentleman. And I will say this, a true professional.
Yeah, gentleman is the perfect word for him.
Yep.
How did you get involved in wrestling?
Well, when I was younger, I used to promote it. All the local shows. I'd get a call from Abe Ford, and he would come into Boston or wherever. I'd help do the tickets, help put the show together. I put a show together at Salem State to raise money for North Shore Community College, and all the guys I watched on TV were there, and that's how I got involved. And a funny story: when I did that show at Salem State, I remember the policeman coming over saying, man, no blood, no swearing, you got to keep it. I said, not a problem. Well, guess who was on the card that night? Classy Freddie Blassie. You must take that and throw it all out the window. Columbo was there, Valiant was there, the Wiz, they were all there. So I'm sitting at ringside, I'm doing the bell, and all of a sudden out he comes. Give me that fucking chair. I said, Freddie, get that chair. I said, okay, it's all yours. You can have it. Bye. That's how I get started. And then I get out of it, obviously. When the kids came along, I get married. It was kind of like very difficult to balance that and everything else in life, as you well know. So I was out for a while.
How'd you get back in? Tell me about Johnny Fabulous.
Johnny Fabulous. That's a good story. I'd gone through a divorce, very heartbroken, obviously. 34 years I was married. It was tough. And there was an ad for somebody. I got it through the guys that, there's somebody looking for a ring announcer down at Star Wars Wrestling. Knuckle Nelson, Knuckles?
Oh, sure. I don't know. I
There
know
you
him very
go,
well.
Knuckles Nelson, one of the other
Wow.
fine gentlemen in this business.
Yeah.
He's a
Very nice
great
guy.
human being. And so
Wow.
I went down, I tried out, and great set of pipes, like what I hear, but I might have somebody else and all this stuff. And I said, no, hi, man, it was great, had a good time. I said, no, 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 hang on. I need a manager. I need a heel. Right time, right place. And I said, well, what do we do? It's got to be great. What are we going to call them? What do people hate? People with money, people that badger people, belligerent. What are we going to call them? Can't use Johnny Cash, obviously, because I'm not a country western singer. So I said, whatever we do, he said, yeah, whatever we do is got to be fabulous. He said, that's it. Johnny Fabulous. And that's where I started, at the Pavilion down there in Salisbury Beach. And I'll tell you, I guess I did my job well, because Miss New Hampshire was there one time, and I was, just in the ring doing my thing, and I didn't realize she was crying. So I guess I did my job well. It was fun. That's how I get back into the business.
What were your first impressions of meeting Vince McMahon?
A true gentleman. And I really mean that. I hear a lot of garbage talk about this man. And I think that until you walk in the moccasins of the person, until you're in that position, you really don't understand what it's all about, because, it's a business. He was kind, he was generous. I remember John brought me into Boston. We were going to have dinner. And he said, you got to wear the fabo tie, you got to do this. And I'm going, what for? We got to go to dinner. And so he brings me in, and we go get this table in the back, and who's there? Shane McMahon and his father. What a great human being. Both of them, very kind and generous. And the more I got to know him, when I did the thing with Orton, I was traveling with John, and, he would come at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I want that Scotch Johnny Walker Red, that's my thing. And so I think you have to understand that when you're in business, and we've both been in it, if you can't put asses in seats, and I have no place for you, then I'm better off letting you go and do your own thing. Fans, I don't think, really understand what this business is all about. And they think he's a hard ass, he's this and he's that, but I can tell you, very generous, very kind, takes the business very seriously, and does, regardless of what people say, takes very good care of his talent.
That's awesome. You mentioned Randy Orton. I'll tell you, whenever I have someone on the show, I like to go on YouTube. I like to get in the mood. So I got in a little John Cena mood last night. John Cena Sr. I watched it while it was live, but I rewatched it. That bump you took over the railing on your head and that punt kick. Can you talk to us about that?
I will never forget the kick in the head, scar right here. When I went over the barrier, I remember when we got to the back, Triple H thought I broke my neck. But I said, you've got to do what you got to do to make it look good. And I did.
You did.
I'm not sure about that punt. I swear to God, I was a football and he was a Patriot kicker. I don't think I leaned into it. I've had all kinds of stories. I know I took a hard kick. The way we went over it was nothing like the way it came out, to the point where I was always saying, whoa, I know Randy's a great guy, and I mean that. He's a true professional, took good care of me in the ring when I wrestled him, that main event. But that kick, I look at that 1,000 times. It's like his boot came up. It just, bang, it connected. He knocked me out. As you know, bloodied me up pretty bad, cut my head open. And I don't think I'll ever forget that day. From that point on, I was leery of working with Randy, and I shouldn't have been. But I think, things happen in the business, and it just happened to be at that time in that place that it happened. But I don't know why that kick was so bango. I do remember that when we did the comeback where he pulled me over the rail a second time, it was going to kick me in the head, and John grabbed him. We went over that, and so I said, I remember Vince was there, Radney, Arn Anderson was the guy putting it together. And I said, okay, so I'm kicking him in the head. And they said, yeah. I said, well, I'll return the favor, just like you kicked me. And Vince goes, no, 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 you can't do that shit. No, no, no. And Orton was saying, you can't do that. I'm getting married in 2 weeks. But it was okay for me to walk around with a neck brace and black eyes. And so I did it. I did the kick. And in the back, Randy said to me, geez, that was very nice, very good. I think it looked good on TV. It came across well. But like I say, people don't understand, I get very upset when people say to me, this thing is fake. There's nothing fake about it, man. When you're in there, my life's in your hands and your life's in mine. And sometimes, to put it bluntly, shit happens.
Talk to me about working with Edge. I think Adam's one of the nicest guys in pro wrestling.
Adam Copeland is another man that I use the word gentleman for. I remember when we did that bit at the house here, Bruce Pritchard was in charge of that. And I guess when Vince saw the tape, I don't know if you got the readings on that or not, but that's the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. But you know what? I say to everybody, and they still show it, the slap, Cena's down. Look at the mileage they get out of that. Look at the mileage. And I had a lot of fun doing it. He and Lita, another young, tremendous female wrestler, Lita can never take that away from her. But that was fun. The slap was my idea. Edge didn't want to do it, but we did it. I think it came out pretty good. That was a tough thing to do. I think it worked.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anybody else that you physically got involved with, was there?
No, my main battles were Orton and Edge. I think the Orton might have gone further had situations not occurred, but it did occur, and so that went off the books. The Edge thing, I remember when I was having dinner in Boston, we were talking about, I smoke cigars. What do you like to smoke? Whatever John sends me. And well, by the way, we'd like to use you with Edge. And how do you feel about taking a spear right from Edge? And I'm going, are you nuts? And I probably would have rather taken the spear than taking that kick in the head. And God rest his soul. I remember when I was going to do that, Dusty Rhodes was talking to me, one of the greats, all-time greats in this business. And I remember I said, I'm a little concerned. Son, don't be worried about nothing. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about nothing. I'm telling you, I took that kick. It's going to be all right. Yeah, okay. And
it's a good Dusty.
When I took that kick, the only thing I worried about when they were pulling out in the stretcher, and I guess they did an MRI or whatever to make sure that I was okay. But the one thing I remember, I kept saying, did I do okay for my son? That was my own concern. Did it look good? And was it good? And I guess it was. Everybody was very happy with it. So enough about that one.
What's it like when you're in the crowd and John's in the ring and he's either getting cheered or he's getting booed? Like you were there for that the Canada match with Edge, where John was essentially the heel. And what's it like that 20,000 people hating your son or 20,000 people loving your son? What's that like as a dad?
When you understand what it's all about, I guess you know as well as I, when there's no noise, you worry. There was plenty of noise. That was probably another outstanding match. That Edge, Punk, Orton, those are people that I'll never forget that he worked well with. And people were like, oh, if Cena wins, we're going to riot. I had a promoter say he wanted to bring me into Canada so they could beat me up, would get revenge if he wins. And but in the very end, I remember that toss off the ladder. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And Edge's mom was behind me, God rest her soul, and I guess. And I think she's passed, is she not?
She did, yes.
Yeah. And she had this look on her face, and I could feel it in my gut. And I looked at my son, and he's got Edge on his shoulders, and I'm looking at that face, and it's like, do I really have to do this? And he did it. And Edge was very generous, and he said, I knew he'd take care of me. But when he went through those tables, he literally got knocked out. He was out of it. And when John won, the crowd seemed to reverse their attitude. I don't know if you see the pictures of John hugging me in the ring. I
I,
want
I
a
did.
picture, and yeah,
Yeah.
you know. So that was quite a deal there, and you know, in Boston Garden, I would go all the time when John is there, and I remember I'm sitting in the front, and there's 5 or 6 guys behind me, and you know this. Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks. Let's go. These guys are. Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks. Cena sucks. So I turned around. I go, oh, hey, Mr. Cena. I said, how you guys doing? Great. You know, we're just having fun. I said, please, you paid for your ticket. I don't care what you say. But, you know, the one thing I would ask you to do, what's that? Will you take his T-shirts off? Because so that was it.
That's awesome. What's your favorite moment of his career?
In his career,
Yeah.
my son's, you know, I don't think I really have one that's really, this is it. But I think when he won the championship belt, I think that's the first time when he became part of the crowd. Because remember, Cena was brought in as a heel, the doctor of thugonomics. So they say he's really here to do the day. He's going to come in, and soon you'll see he's going to knock you on your ass and get the 1, 2, 3. But you know, he couldn't even be a heel. They just accepted who he was. And bingo, with that match with Angle, that really was the beginning. And I don't know, I'm not sure, but they had any plans for him afterwards. And I guess Stephanie heard him rapping. He did it on TV. Dr. Thugonomics is born, and the rest is history. I suppose the other match that stands out in my mind is the one with JBL, where he won the belt from JBL. That's another great match, and I cannot rule out the stuff he did with Edge.
Hey, did you and John ever get a chance to work anything together in a show?
Only the stuff we did with WWE, and then
Okay.
I did bring a show in. My son Daniel was involved in a head-on collision in his cruiser by a drunk driver. So we brought a show in to Byfield at the school. We sold that out. And we did have a chance to work together. That was when I got a call, and Vince said, "Be sure you put me on the poster. I'm gonna be there." I was told, you know, no, he's not going to be there. And I said, he gave his word. And John was telling me, you know, it's not going to happen. So John was going to be the guest referee for the match. And all of a sudden, I kiss the woman. I get banged. I roll out of the ring. I'm down. The next thing I look up, here's McMahon looking down at me. And I kind of looked up and I said, "What are you doing in my ring?" And he said, "Anything I want." And he came and he really, it was quite a thing to see Vince McMahon appear. John was in the ring. A young man from Chaotic Wrestling was in the ring, Brian Malonis. He was the heel.
Oh, sure.
Yep, Brian's a great guy, another
Yeah.
great performer. And he put Brian over well, and Cena gave Vince the old gizmo. Vince was out, and then he left the building. He flew down, got a limo down. He got there. He kept his word. That's what I mean. How do you badmouth somebody that goes out of his way for a little guy? I'm just a little guy. I'm a nobody. And how do you turn around and say, ah? And I'll tell you, that night was all the money that was raised for prevention of drunk driving. We gave money to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We gave mini breathalyzers to state police, to the local police. All kinds of things were done with that money. So it was a very fruitful night.
Last question about your son. How do you want the fans to remember John Cena?
As John Cena. I want to remember the guy that did what he had to do to entertain the crowd every night. And not only the wrestling, but I think people have a tendency to say, oh yeah, he does this, he does that. Let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the Make-A-Wish. Let's take a look at some of the philanthropic things that are done by this young man. So I just hope that the fans will respect and remember what he did for the business, in the business. And, you know, I guess that's about it.
You said you make your own cigars. You make your own. Did you say alcohol?
I have somebody do cigars for me. I have my own I don't know if I've got a bottle here or not. Yep.
Yeah, let's plug it. We have website.
No,
and,
I don't want to play it. No.
Come
I
on.
don't, because I don't sell the wine. I don't sell the wine.
Okay.
You can see that. That's Johnny Fabulous.
I love it.
I have that made by the folks down there at Ass Kickin' Hot Sauce down in Arizona.
Nice.
I do my own wine. I make a lot of wine. I've been making wine for a while, but I just bottle it and give it away.
Okay.
The $1 million bills, obviously, I sign, give those out. I have chocolate. I had chocolate cigars for the kids because you don't want them to have the real thing. So I just, my son made a comment that made me feel good one day, and he said, Dad, I don't know anybody that's more into the gimmick than you. And it's just kind of fun. I have a lot of fun with it. I'm very thankful to be allowed to do what I do. I'm very thankful to the young men and women in this business that allow me to be with them. They could pick other managers, but I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have been able to watch people on TV and have been able to work with them. Lou Albano, God rest his soul. Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I look at all these men that I watched on TV. Kamala, God rest his soul. I worked with all these gentlemen. Jimmy Snuka. I remember working Snooker, and he goes, "Okay, brother, you're going to get the headbutt, brother." And Iron Sheik, another great guy. God rest his soul. Dan Marotti, Boston Wrestling. We had the Sheik on quite a bit with interviews, and the only way you get the Sheik riled up is talk about Hogan, Wendy Rick, Brian Blair. I don't like those people. They're not good for me. I'll kill it, break the block, make a humble. So I've been very honored, and I'm just so thankful. And a lot of people will say to me, well, being a manager, what do you think? I said, I think what you need to do is do what I did, watch a lot of tapes, look at the best in the business. Vicky Guerrero, excellent at what she does. You don't have to say 2 words.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman, another great. How can we forget the greatest Bobby the Brain Heenan? I mean, just Lou Albano. These guys made it real. They made it real. And Heyman, look what he's doing with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful. I really am. And I thank all those young men and women who allow me to work with them and the promoters that allow me to be part of their shows.
If people want to get in touch with you, is there any way they can get in touch with you?
They can email me, same way you is, at my email address. I do have a website up, but that's for my Justice of the Peace. I did have a wrestling website out, but I kind of pull that back. But they can go to the John Cena JP website and get me through that.
Do you want to let people know what the email is if they want to reach you?
Yeah, I suppose, as long as I don't get a lot of.
Well, then don't know. I'll edit it out then. You don't have to do it.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this. If they want to reach me, why don't they go through you?
Sure.
Go through you, and I'll tell you what. Be my booker.
There you go.
How's that?
I'll forward the messages. Yes, sir.
You probably go broke, but you can be my booker. More than happy to do that.
Mr. Cena, this was a blast. I love doing this because I have no wrestling outlet now, and there's a lot of people that I broke in with that went on to be famous, and I get to have them on my show. There's a lot of people that I helped out, and they come back as a favor to me. There's a lot of people that, like Jim Brunzell or the late Lanny Poffo, that I idolized as a child. Bill Eadie, Demolition Axe, Demolition Smash, that I'm so fortunate that they came on here. But there's also people that I've never had a chance to meet and become friends with, someone like yourself. So this was a big thrill for me. I want to thank you very much for your time. Your stories were awesome. This was a lot of fun for me.
And keep the faith. The wrestling world is a great world. And I say this to mean it from the bottom of my heart. Without the fans, whether they boo you or cheer you, just remember, they are the lifeblood of this business. We can do anything we want in that ring, but if they're not there to make us do it, there is no business. So thanks to the fans.
Beautiful. Thank you again.
Anytime, my friend. I look forward to another time. We'll have some fun.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too, sir. Thank you.
All right.